a tutti, and welcome to another edition of Italian America Long Island. My name is Dave Anthony Setta Ducati. You know, music is such a big part of the Italian heritage. And when millions of Italian immigrants came to the United States around the 1900s, they brought with them their classical music that they loved so much, the opera and other forms of classical music. And growing up in those households in the early years, the great Italian-American singers such as Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Tony Bennett, Louis Prima, Perry Como, and so many others, such as Jerry Vale and Jimmy Roselli, took that classical music background and he developed into a popular music style that was so popular in America for so many, many years. Today I'm privileged to have with me a very good friend of mine, Mr. Bob Monteleone, who is, in my mind, one of the best singers I've ever known, and also a great interpreter of that classic, popular American Italian style of singing. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. Nice to be here.
Bob, why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about your Italian heritage, your own personal Italian heritage?
Sure. Well, I'm actually half and half Neapolitan on my mother's side, and Sicilian on my father's side. My mother's family came from a province in Italy, Sant'Angelo. The province was Avellino, and my father's family came from a town called Cefalù, which is in Sicily, or right outside of Palermo, I should say. And so there was always the warring factions, you know, who was better, the Sicilians or the Neapolitans. And although my father's family all died off very young, and he was alone most of his life, most of his adult life until he met my mother. He was taken in by her family, my grandfather, my grandmother, and the sisters and brothers, and accepted almost as a member of the family to begin with. But of course, they never let him forget that he was Sicilian. You know.
Okay. Well, that rivalry, I guess, exists today.
Yeah.
In your upbringing, what part did the Italian heritage play in your upbringing?
Well, one of the things I remember very fondly was the Sunday meal. And what would happen is that we would all get together on Sunday and all help prepare the meal. Even the kids were involved. My job, along with my cousin Frank, was to make the raviolis. They would put out the sheet, and the ricotta, of course, would be laid out, and then the sheet would be pulled over, the dough would be pulled over, and then they'd just make these little ravioli things, you know. And then my job was to get the fork and nail down the ravioli. You know, it was a real artistic work, and it was very important because the food also had to look good, not just taste good.
Absolutely. And this was in your grandmother's home?
It was in my grandmother's home. My grandfather and his family and my uncles were all involved with a bakery that they had, and it was one of the best bakeries in South Brooklyn, and Braccia's Bakery. And my grandfather had to find a way, when he was a young guy and he was starting his business, he had to find a way not to pay protection to the local thugs. So what he used to do, and he hated to do it, but it was the only way he could do it and the only way he could stay alive, is they would give him the guns that they used, and he would have to bury the guns in the flour. You know, so that the guys could wait for everything to lay low, and then people would come knocking at the door. I mean, it was right out of a Francis Ford Coppola movie, you know. But my grandfather, who hated to do that because he was a very reserved and spiritual guy, he said it, you know, it was the only way that he was going to be able to survive financially.
It's such a shame that these thugs did prey upon innocent people.
Absolutely, yeah.
And forced them to do things that they didn't want to do.
Right. And it's amazing how it's such a small minority of Italian heritage or Italian people, and yet it made it bad for the large majority of great people that
well, it certainly does. Yeah. It certainly does. But it is something that people love to hear about. The Godfather movies, of course, were so very, very popular. And it's always been in the news. It's the type of thing that the media likes to glorify.
Yeah.
Even though Italian organizations in the United States work very, very hard to show that that's such a small percentage of Italians.
Right.
And there are so many other Italians that made so many great contributions, not only to Italian culture, but to American culture and American life.
Right.
But let's get back to the music, Bob. What role did music play in your upbringing? I mean, was it a part of the household, or?
I'm sure, if I remember correctly, that my grandfather probably had his opera on while we were eating dinner on a Sunday. But it's kind of lost in the crevices of my mind right now. Music didn't become really important to me until I actually moved to Bay Ridge, and I think my first real understanding of music and the power it had was when I was in junior high school.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? How you got involved in music,
Right.
seeing that it wasn't such a big part for your parents.
No, it wasn't.
How did it become such a big part for you?
My first real exposure to music had to do with these social dances that we had after school in junior high school. And that's where the music was playing, and I saw the effect it had on girls. And I said, I got to get into this. You know, this is really important.
Back then, was it recorded music that they played at?
Yeah, they did. They played the record. And then I started to sing, and a couple of friends of mine started to act like we had a group. We really didn't. We weren't really harmonizing or anything like that. But I started to get more and more into singing with the records, you know. And I started to think, you know, I think I can do this, you know. And in the Bay Ridge section of Brooklyn, there were these two soda fountain places. One was the Green Tea Room, and the other was a place called Hinch's. Hinch's is still around, as a matter of fact, still in business. But that was a big attraction for the kids, you know, and we would go up there on a Friday night. Once I started getting into high school, you know, I guess I was maybe 14 or so, and I started to see these doo-wop groups that would find little alcoves or storefronts, you know, hallways where you could, you know, it was the looking for an echo kind of thing. And these guys, and of course all the girls were there listening to the guys, and I said, I got to get into this. And eventually what happened is, as I was growing up and attending these things just by listening and just by being there, you'd get, every once in a while, you'd get a situation where, and of course they were all Italian kids, you know, it was right. Tony Cracciola and Johnny Caprero, you know, all these Italian kids were singing in these vestibules, and every once in a while they'd say, hey, you know, Anthony, he's not here today. Okay, we don't have a baritone. Can anybody sing? They yell out, and you know, I said, yeah, me, you know, yeah. And I got with these guys, started singing with them, and that's how I got introduced to doing doo-wops and stuff like that. I really started that way, but I also met up with Larry Giovannoni, another Italian guy, and Larry played the guitar, and he and I got together with George Morelli and a guy named Vinny Savino, who was a drummer, and we formed a group, and we wrote some music, and the song's very simplistic but very pretty, I thought anyway. And we were out behind my friend Larry's house singing the song that we had written called Baby What Can I Do was the name of it. Baby Till I See You was the name of the song. And it's a lovely song. And we were out there singing it, 4 of us singing, all in unison. And it was a porch, and right next door, because these were attached homes, I saw somebody outside on the other porch next door, out there smoking a cigarette. You could just see the red embers of the cigarette, you know. And we finished the song, and he said, hey guys, and we looked over. And of course it's Brooklyn, so yeah, you know, that's pretty good. That's pretty sweet. I like that. He was an older guy. And I said, you know, reluctantly, because you want to be a tough Brooklyn kid, and you say, oh yeah, thanks, you know. And he said, do you guys ever hear of anything called harmony? And I said, yeah, we've heard of that. He said, well, why don't you try it? how do you do that? I said to him, because now I'm curious, right? And he obviously knew how to do it because he came closer to us. I don't even remember his face because it was so dark back there. And he showed us how to do the harmony for this song that we had written. And I was the only one, because my friend Larry was singing the lead, I was the only one of the rest of the group that was able to catch the harmony, you know. And this is actually, this is probably before I even started hanging out in front of the Green Tea Room or Hinch's. This is, now that it all comes back to me, this is probably around, I would say junior high school, early high school.
So this was your musical training?
Yeah, this was it.
Did you have any other formal musical training, Bob?
No, no. Well, that's not true. I actually played baritone horn in the junior high school band.
I know, but the music programs in schools are so important because they give an opportunity for young people to have that formal training, which then they can take and go in whatever direction they want. Bob, I know a little bit about your background because I've known you for over 40 years.
Right.
And I know that you had an opportunity to perform on TV. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Right. In high school, there was a piano player, a bass player, and a drummer, and me. I was the singer. And it was a jazz combo because even though I started singing doo-wops and rock and roll music, I started to really get into the music of Frank Sinatra and Tony Bennett. What I really liked about that kind of music, the music that Frank was singing, the music that Tony was singing, is it told stories. And they knew how to tell a story too, not just make music, but also tell a story. And we did stuff like Love Is Here to Stay, Our Love Is Here to Stay, Pennies from Heaven, oh God, Got a Lot of Living to Do, the Steve Allen song, This Could Be the Start of Something Big. We started to do this, and then we heard about this Old Borough concert. When we went down to audition for the show, but unbeknownst to me, there was a talent scout from the Ted Mack Amateur Hour there who was sitting in the audience. And after the show was over, in the dressing room, this gentleman came in, very nicely dressed, kindly looking old man, and he said, I really enjoyed your Pennies from Heaven. I said, oh, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. He said, would you like to be on television? I said, do you mean would I like to sit on top of the television or really be in the television? No, really be in the television. I said, yeah, I'd love that. He says, well, I'm from Ted Mack. You've heard of the Ted Mack Amateur Hour? I said, yes, I watch it every week. He said, you know, and that's the way Frank Sinatra started. Would you like an opportunity? I said, yeah, me and the guys would love to be. He said, no, just you. He said, we're not going to use the whole group. He said, just you. And he said, we'll get in touch with you about what to do. And
how exciting was that?
Oh my God, unbelievable.
Was it filmed in Manhattan?
It was filmed in Manhattan. I had to wear a blue shirt because it was in black and white, and for some reason the blue was better than the white for some reason. I don't know why. And I went down for the rehearsal, and it was an all-day kind of thing. I had to stay there all day. I even got paid. I forget how much it was. But that, well, of course, that was unimportant. And I sang Pennies from Heaven.
And when it was shown, did the entire family watch it?
Oh yes, we watched it together. All my friends watched it, and of course told me how great I was, even though I didn't think I was that good. But it was quite. I lost to a guy who played two trumpets with one mouth. Because that's that's of course what a lot of people were interested in seeing. But you know, it's but again, it was quite an experience. You know.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Did anything come of that? Did you get any other gigs?
Not really. No. My drummer, the guy who was a drummer in my band, Eddie Cassell, his father had a jazz combo. And on Friday nights, I would go down and do a couple of sets with them. My Uncle Phil, who was my mother's brother, was the class clown of the family. And he would say, all the great singers are Italian. And I would say, really? And he says, yeah, sure. Look, you got Frank Sinatra, you got Tony Bennett. I said, Tony Bennett's really Italian? He said, yes. Benedetto was his name. He says, yeah. I said, that's great. He says, and I said, wait a minute, what about Eddie Fisher? He says, no, Eddie Fisher's real name is Eddie Fischetti. And I said, what about Nat King Cole? Nat King Cole, Sicilian.
Well, Bob, you did mention that you were a high school teacher.
I was, yes.
So, and I happen to know that because I taught at the same high school that you did.
That's right.
And how did the music influence your teaching?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you remember both of us were teaching a musical poets course. As a matter of fact, I think you and I actually even taught one of the courses, we team taught it together. I don't know if you remember that.
That was a wonderful experience. We had a lot of fun.
We did have a lot of fun, yeah.
I know you and I have a great musical history together.
Sure.
And we often performed for the students.
The kids always wanted us to perform for them. And
I remember so many times,
okay.
The days before holidays
Okay.
were often a wasted teaching day because very often we had half days back then.
Yeah.
So at a high school, that was often a day that many of our students would cut out and generally, you know, recap it on the attendance numbers. So the principal was very happy to have us sing on those days because the kids would attend.
Yes.
And we would get the state aid for the school at that time. And I remember you bringing your class into my classroom.
Oh, yeah.
And then the next thing you know, the other teacher, Mike LaMonaco, would bring his class into our classroom. Right. And then our fourth teacher, we'd have 4 classes in the one classroom.
Yeah.
And then we'd start singing for the kids.
Yeah. I'm sure we were breaking some kind of rule as far as how many people should be in a classroom.
Oh, I'm sure we did. I'm sure we did. But then, do you remember it progressed to the cafeteria?
It did.
Then the principal offered us the cafeteria, and we sang in the cafeteria.
And there were other teachers in the building who were also talented musicians and singers, so we were using them, right? There was Mal and Bruce.
Mal Kaufman and Bruce Gelman, 2 of our friends, and they started to perform with us.
Mark Sharon, right.
Another teacher performed with us. And then we started to have the students perform with us too.
That's right.
And I also remember we had this one giant concert. It was for the Italian earthquake.
That's what it was. Yes, that's right.
Italian earthquake in either the 70s or the 80s.
Right.
That was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, we collected money for them too.
We certainly did.
Get donations. I forget how much it was, but.
And I remember the, you know, the very famous scarf that you used to wear.
It's my disco scarf. Yeah.
You had the white disco scarf. Bob, you were always a clothes horse back then, and still are. You dress very nicely, and that was a big joke that we all used to laugh about.
That's right. I still have that scarf. It's encased in glass now, and it's hanging in the vestibule.
Now, Bob, you going to sing a little bit for us?
I am. Yes. I thought you'd never ask.
Okay. Let's take a minute to hear some of the songs of Bob Monteleone.
A day in the life of a fool, a sad and a long, lonely day. I walk the avenue and hope I'll run into the welcome sight of you coming my way. Hey, I stopped just across from your door, but you're never home anymore. So back to my room, and there in the gloom I cry tears of goodbye. Till you come back to me, that's the way it will be every day in the life of a fool. I stop just across from your door, but you're never home anymore. So back to my room, and there in the gloom I cry tears of goodbye till you come back to me. That's the every day in the life of a fool, of a fool, of a if our lips should meet in Amarada, kiss me sweet in Amarada, hold me close and say you're mine, with a love as warm as wine. I'm at heaven's door in Amarada. Love you more in Amarada. You're a symphony, a very beautiful sonata. My Amarada, say that you're my sweetheart, my one and only sweetheart. Say that you're my sweetheart, my love. Every time it rains, pennies from heaven. Don't you know each cloud contains pennies from heaven? You'll find your fortunes falling all over the town. Make sure that your umbrella is upside down. Trade them for a package of sunshine and flowers. If you want the things you love in life, you gotta have showers. So when you hear it thunder, don't go under a tree. There'll be pennies from heaven for you and me. You better trade them for a package of sunshine and flowers. If you want the things you love in life, you gotta have showers. So when you hear it thunder, don't go under a tree. There'll be pennies from heaven for you and me. Pennies from heaven for you and me.
Bob, that was fantastic. I always enjoy your singing. For many years I've been, privileged to back you up and play guitar for you and accompany you, and you're a great singer. You personally taught me a lot about singing, I have to say that. And thank you so much for sharing your talents and for being on the show.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you, David.